It was interesting at the first show that I did, which was the Alberta Bodybuilding Association show. There was a guy on stage and he was competing against us in physique, but the guy was really big and just like he was just had a lot of mass on him and it looked fabulous. His name was Travis. And literally during the show, he's up on stage with us and they stopped the show and they said, Travis, we need you to compete in this other category. They pulled him out of the category and he won the other category.
Yeah, and that makes sense though.
Brilliant. Really, I thought that was the best thing ever. Because then in another show I was in, I got beat by the same guy in 2 different categories. Yeah. Which to me, that seemed weird that his physique didn't change between the categories.
Yep.
I don't know, maybe there's something else deeper in there that I don't want to admit. I was so far back from competing that that's a possibility too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I do agree with that there should definitely be set standards between the different categories. Yeah. And, it just depends on who shows up. So realistically, if somebody looks the best out of all the people that are on the stage, no matter what category they're in, it's hard to not give it to them.
That's right.
So
what's one of the questions I was thinking as you were talking was, when you look at, again, of course, women and men have a different level of body fat. And we kind of acknowledge that there's maybe 5 is probably an easy number % difference between men and women at, when they're at the same level. When you look at the different categories for women, where do you see bikini, through the different categories for level? Sometimes we call it conditioning. Maybe it's the politically correct way to talk about body fat. I don't know. But where do you see the different levels of body fat for women in those categories?
Yeah. So when you're looking at bikini and wellness, what they've set for standards is they want them to have the same level of conditioning. Okay. So that's kind of deceiving because wellness athletes hold a lot more muscle on their body in comparison to bikini athletes. So that's why often they look harder, they look grainier, they look like they have more separation and more detail to their muscle. But realistically, the standard is that they do have the same level of conditioning. So it can kind of appear like they are a little bit harder, but realistically, they're not supposed to be. Then when you graduate up into something like figure, you want to see a lot leaner of a physique. You want to see striations, you want to see graininess, you want separation between the muscle, whereas in the other 2 categories, you want shape and you want definition, but you don't want to see striations. Right. So for bikini athlete, you don't want to see like striated
shoulders.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. You don't want those pumpkin delts. You don't want to see feathering in the quads. That's a no-no.
Yeah, right. So, and then up to...
Yeah, and then physique and bodybuilding, that is like as shredded as you can get.
Yeah. It's interesting that the women's physique and men's physique aren't the same. They're in different spots, really?
Totally.
Right? Isn't that
confusing? They call it men's bikini. Men's bikini. Men's bikini. That's what men's physique is.
In my last show, I learned a hard lesson. Because I was cutting and and everyone cuts different, right? Mm-hmm. So I had these... In my head, I kept thinking, I got to keep cutting. I got to keep cutting. I got to get to this point. And so what was happening is my upper body was shredded crazy. Yeah. But my lower body, not as much, right? But it wouldn't matter in physique because you have board shorts on. Yeah. So I get to the show and the guy who beat me, he was in amazing shape, but like he easily had 10 pounds of body fat on me. So I was like, there was like a side-by-side picture of our backs and mine is like, there's the rhomboids, there's the upper trap, there's the lower trap. I was like, wow. And his was just like, blah.
Interesting.
It was crazy. So he beat me in Masters.
Yeah, that was just in the Canadian
Naturals. Yeah.
So do you think that like feeding yourself into the show and filling up a little bit more maybe would have given you that extra edge? Or
I think so. Yeah. And it probably, like I was using a coach who was, and maybe we have to talk about coaching too, but the coach I was talking to probably was more comfortable with working with women. And then, so, and you know what you need to do. Yeah. And so then the other part that he was good at was probably working with bodybuilding men. So then in his mind, you just keep shredding until there's nothing left. You cut ketchup, and so then, so when I got to peak week and I was, what he was telling me was just simply, you're fine. Right. But I should have just like tripled what I was eating. Yeah. Just to kind of fill right up. But totally. Like I still came in good and I won, really. Yeah. But I didn't win the next category that I wanted to win.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So. And I hate that when you come in and you're like, I'm happy with what I brought and I did well, but at the same time, you're like, I know I could do better. I know I can look better, but you take it as a learning experience and now you just apply this to every other show that you do. And exactly.
Yeah. And I guess, and it's maybe part of the coaching conversation that we need to have too. And it's, maybe the lead in is I didn't really have a coach, because I was being super arrogant about it. I have a coaching certificate. I thought I know what I'm doing. Yeah. And I really, if I had had a coach that, had, taken their slipper off and given me the whack, I would have been better. So anyways, what are your thoughts on coaching? So you do some coaching. Yes. So like the lead in is you do a certain kind of coaching now and it's not really everything. Hey, this is Craig. Thanks for watching this episode. I have a number of really interesting people that I'm going to be speaking with over the next while. Don't miss an episode. They're going to be great. If you have a chance, jump over to the partnerstaffing.com website. All the links to the videos that we're doing that are employment related will be there. Anyways, hit subscribe. Special thanks to our editor, Chris Look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Craig out.